Hi, I'm Lauren Thomas. In this lecture video, we'll talk about the 8 common themes of behavior change. You may have noticed a good amount of overlap, a good amount of commonalities in the health behavior theories that we covered in this course. And in this lecture video, we'll talk about those themes. I'm sure you noticed this as well. You saw that the self-efficacy theory came into play at times in multiple theories, multiple models. You may have also noticed that readiness was a component. So there's a lot of overlap in the elements of behavior change, which tells you that this is a really strong element if you keep seeing it play out over and over in additional theories or models. So about 20 years ago, several behavior change theorists decided, you know what, there's so much overlap, there's so much, all these Venn diagrams, there's a lot of commonalities. What can we agree upon that we all can say, yes, this determines health behavior? And what these theorists came to recognize is no matter if you're a healthcare professional or any sort of professional who's working with maybe an individual patient, or if you're working in a community, or if you're working in an organization, if you're trying to make long-term change in humans, how do you make that happen? Here are the common elements. Number 1, the person has formed a strong positive intention or a commitment to perform the behavior. So what does this mean? That means that person, to have an intention, to have a commitment, means that that person has to really believe that there's a risk for this problem to continue, that there's consequences of not changing this behavior, and they see it as severe, and that the recommended behavior, health behavior, will lower the risk of this problem continuing. What does that mean in practice? It means that we need to ensure that people understand that the risk to their health is serious and that it's personally relevant. We need to emphasize both short-term and long-term benefits so that they can build that motivation towards behavior change, and acknowledge that, yeah, there's going to be some downsides to doing this health behavior, likely some social downsides, negative social downsides, because you're doing a health behavior that might be counter to your family of origins culture or to your peer group. Number 2, there are no environmental constraints. There's no barriers in your way that make it impossible for the behavior to occur. So what does this mean? Barriers are real. Barriers can be tangible. This can be, a lack of time, money, lack of facilities to help support this. This could also be mental, mindset, psychological barriers, peer pressure barriers, and barriers can occur at all of the different levels ecologically, both intrapersonal, interpersonal, family, society, whatever the level is, barriers may be in people's way. So what does this mean? As a professional, your role is to help determine what barriers are within that individual's capacity to remove, what might be something that's out of their control, and maybe within a professional's role, help create these supportive environments whenever possible. For a community-oriented or an organizational-oriented professional, this might mean creating built environments. For example, built environments, building sidewalks to encourage walking. Number 3, the person has the skills necessary to perform the behavior. If that person doesn't have the skill sets to perform the behavior, then they're not going to be able to perform the behavior well or feel confident in themselves. So the person, or even the community, if you're working in a community level, has to have the knowledge and ability to make steps towards this healthy behavior change. So what does it mean in practice? It means being very clear and provide training on how to perform that particular action. If it's working with a patient, building a particular treatment regimen, make sure that they are completely clear. They can share with you what you said back to them, and we're all explicitly understanding what the expectations are. Clear is kind. So other ways we can be visible role models to show that we have also adopted that recommended health behavior. We can offer suggestions on other alternative modifications to the skill set. If that particular skill set has not been built yet, we can help create an on-ramp for building their own competence and self-efficacy in accomplishing that skill. And then we can also help reframe what a failure is as instead lessons to be learned. Number 4, the person must believe that the advantages of performing this behavior outweigh the disadvantages. This goes back to that decisional balance. So what does this mean? It means that the advantages, both real and perceived benefits, outweigh the real, tangible, and perceived emotional barriers. So what does it mean for us as professionals? It means that we need to emphasize those positive benefits, acknowledge the negative consequences, but downplay them if you have to. Acknowledge it, but say, yeah, you've done harder things than this, because that individual needs to feel and really believe it, that the advantages of performing this behavior outweigh the disadvantages. Number 5, the person perceives more social pressure to perform the positive health behavior than not to do so. So what does this mean? It means that that person or community that you're serving needs to perceive that the people in their life that matter most to them support them in this healthy behavior. So what does this mean? It means helping the people that we serve identify role models and identify influencers in their life that actually do support this healthy recommended behavior. Number 6, the person perceives that the behavior, the health behavior, is consistent with their self-image and doesn't violate their personal standards. What does this mean? That this health behavior has to align with who they think they are. So we have to know as professionals what that person's particular community culture, family culture, lifestyle, we have to know what their values and beliefs are to then help influence them in understanding that, yes, this health behavior is incredibly relevant and appropriate and aligns with their identity. So that means that as a professional, we have to really understand and customize, tailor information about particular health behaviors in ways that align with their identity, with their family values, with who they are as a person. Number 7, the person's emotional reaction to performing the behavior is more positive than negative. So what does this mean? It means that an individual's emotional response can be affected by how they are rewarded for this health behavior. Do they see that there's a reward coming or that they're experiencing while they are performing the health behavior or perhaps immediately following the health behavior? Rewards need to be meaningful to them. So let me give you an example. Walking in the rain is something that not a lot of people want to do. They don't see it as something that's desirable. I'm not saying this would change anything, but perhaps if someone was feeling very vain and part of their own identity is around beauty and excellence, perhaps we can share about, just experiencing the rain is like getting moisturizer in your face, on your skin. There's all kind of different ways that a healthcare professional or any sort of professional who's wanting to help make a change in that person's behavior, we have to emphasize the positive results. And yes, again, acknowledge that there could be some negative consequences, but downplay them if you can, if it makes sense and it's not unethical. So set up systems where you are providing incentives, rewards, regular feedback when they are practicing this behavior that is recommended or positive, and help them see that emotionally their interpretation can be a positive one more so than a negative one. Lastly, number 8, the person must believe that they have the capability to perform the behavior not only just in general, but under a variety of different circumstances, because life throws curveballs at us, friends. So, what does this mean? The patient or the community that you're serving has to have the confidence to take action and weather eventual storms, weather additional challenges, barriers that may be surprising will come their way. So, help them anticipate the unexpected. What does this mean? Identify barriers that certainly may exist. Help them expect these instead of being taken back by surprise and feel a little bit panicked of not having an additional alternatives. Teach how to critically assess any sort of failures as just steps towards success, steps towards the journey, and these are lessons that can be learned. So the great thing about having 8 key things to remember is that you don't necessarily have to memorize all of these behavior change theories, all of these health behavior theories that we've covered in this course. You don't necessarily have to know them all. You can just learn these agreed set of 8 key conditions that behavioral change theorists have come to an agreement on and said, yeah, these, when it comes down to it, this is really what drives behavior change. I hope this has been helpful to you in learning more about the 8 common themes of behavior change.